Well, hello, each and every one of you. And, this is kind of a sporadic one, and I'm just making a post and then we'll get started. So if you guys just could give me a couple minutes, we'll jump into a conversation. But great to see everybody who's arrived. All right. Um, and just kind of testing my sound before I just jump in and start talking. If there's anybody still in chat, if you guys wouldn't mind letting me know if you can hear me coming in clear. Let's see. Okay. Just waiting to see. And again, this is a very sporadic live stream. Um, this is kind of something that I had the opportunity to be on a podcast this past weekend with a fantastic podcast, The Occult Rejects. And, they participate in live streams, and a couple other podcasts that I've had the honor to be a guest on have as well. And I really like it. I like the interactiveness of it. I like the capacity of the live chat, and just being able to connect in this kind of way. And this is something that Eduardo and I have never done, but in the future, I think it's definitely an opportunity. And and two, this really kind of gives a unique way to get connected in between the podcast episodes. So this will be something, especially because it was way easier than I thought it was going to be. It was like so easy that I wasn't even like, it wasn't even my intention to go live. But once I just clicked the button and it was like, you're live, I was like, well, let's not fight the river. Universe made that oddly easy for me. And whether you're a new listener or you've been an OG since the very beginning, um, usually you know my relationship with technology. Even typing in that like the email password sometimes can give me a struggle. So I was just like, okay, if it is going to be this easy, let's just kind of jump in. But of course, in the future, I will do a better job of scheduling these so you have a little bit more foresight when these live conversations are going to happen. But also, the aspect of the sporadic one, um, that's also that too. It's like you can plan, and then the component of like just when you feel it, when you feel that like vibe coming through. And so yeah, be on the lookout for scheduled ones. And then you never know when there's going to be a shenanigans random one that's kind of just dropping. So but it's been such a great such a great honor to be with everybody in the chat right now. And I see we have some OGs in there. And of course, like the component of like esoteric knowledge. And really like this community would be nothing without each and every one of you. And it's really just like such an honor to be able to have these conversations and explore these kind of topics. And before we get even started with the what we're going to kind of look into today, you know, a lot of times individuals tell me that like, oh, you have like so much information on the esoteric. And again, it's like such an honor. But I don't think I knew like how much I understood prior to the podcast. Like each and every one of you are a wealth of information too. It's just like this opportunity to speak on it kind of gives that expression to put it into the external, and how important it is to speak about these topics. Because like prior to the podcast, all of this consciousness, like all of this understanding and this information was just like within my own mind. And so I'll just like, run over it and things like this and all of these kind of things. That component of like having a dialogue with somebody to receive it and then send it back to you, and then hearing their perspective on it and their relationship to it, it really is so important. And that is one of the things as I do, astrological charts and do the alchemical counseling. People always say is just like, oh, I really wish I had somebody to like speak to about these kind of things, or they have like a very special person that they do have that connection with. And if it's one of those, if it's the former rather than the latter, and you don't have anybody to like be able to explore this with, I think that there's a possibility and a capacity for that to change with even like this new astrological transit that's occurring um later this month. The This like magnetic energy of like the spiritually aware is amplifying. And it really is. It's going to be almost like more difficult to like connect with individuals that don't have this awareness, and not saying it has to be like a spiritual awareness, um just consciousness in general, you know. Some of the most spiritually advanced people I've ever met don't identify themselves as like a spiritual person. I've had so much wisdom by like going fishing with men or like talking to cowboys and things, and they wouldn't like identify themselves in like the esoteric or the metaphysical, but their embodiment, their character, how they approach life, and even how they like their interaction with nature is is amazing. It's like what we strive for, you know. So it's not just like, oh, only the spiritual are going to be this kind of connection, but there is this component of like the the attraction of your vibration is going to pull in those opportunities, you know. And if you're in a place that like you're not afforded that, um always just like observing, and you can learn from everybody. Everybody can teach you. And like taking that approach, I think is also a great way to do it. But why I was kind of saying that is, you know, finding some kind of community, even like online, where you can like type this into like a message board, um, or even just like speaking to trees, you know, speaking to nature, and getting this information out externally, so it's not just in the mind, whether it's through written expression or through the spoken expression. um, it played such a factor in like my understanding, and I think like the further of my development. And so I always just say that like there's so many people are like, oh, you know so much, and I'm like, I think a lot of it has to do with just like the opportunity I have to speak about it. But it's the same. It's the same with each and every one of you, and there's capacity and components that you understand that I don't. And so again, it's like such an honor just to be on this journey with each and every one of you. But you know, let's jump into the topic of what we're going to be exploring today. And you know, if you've been here since, and I saw some people in the chat that have like indicated it, if you've been with us since the very beginning, you know, we really didn't really talk too often about like astrological transits and what was happening in the aspect of like the construct, you know, what was happening with the planetary energy or what was happening with the numerology of the time. We would talk about like big themes, and we would look into like the foundations and the principles of like what Saturn was, you know, what the hermetic principles were, but we didn't really look into the like the zeitgeist of the moment we find ourselves in now. And if you've noticed, that's kind of dominated a majority of my conversations these last 2 years, especially leading up to what we've been going through. um and the reason for that is there's like no time like the time that we're experiencing. And again, I know I've said this to so many like, you know, seasoned individuals who have been listening to the podcast, but this really is a time that has never been experienced before. And it's continuing to take like further steps into that movement and into that direction. Um, and we've spoken a lot about Aries and Aquarius. Well, this week we had another really big step with the sign of Aries, and that was the entrance of the planet Mars into it. Mars is the planet that rules Aries. So they rhyme together. They have like a connection. And Mars and Aries is going to be like part of this initiation, ignition process of this new book that we're all writing our story in now. You know, that was one of the big themes that we spoke about in the past. It's not a new chapter we're approaching with all these transits. It's a new book. And it's a book that all of the spiritual discoveries of the past have been like setting up for us to begin writing this. Like this moment that we find ourselves in, this is like the table has been getting set since the BC era, to like understand what this moment is. We had transits that have happened that we like never experienced in our lifetime, but haven't been experienced for as long as we can look back. It really is like biblical times is the last time that this happened. Um, and a lot of them happened in the sign of Aries. Aries is never going to be the same sign after these transits that are happening. So, sidereal astrology, which is like Eastern astrology, it moves with the precession of the equinoxes. So the signs placements move over time. Like I'm a Taurus sun in tropical Western astrology, but if you looked up my chart in sidereal, I'm an Aries sun because it has movements. It's not fixed. It kind of moves with like the precession of the stars and the equinoxes. Now, tropical astrology doesn't move in the way that sidereal does, but the signs go through evolution. Everything is going through evolution and transmutation in this reality. And sometimes it's a de evolution, and then sometimes it's like a really accelerated evolution. Well, that's what's happening with Aries. Aries will never be the same sign that it's been. Aries is going through a deep spiritual transformation. And because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it very much is that I am energy, you're going through a deep spiritual transformation. Um, Life is speeding up. It's the component of like synchronicities in your life are are appearing at a rate that almost can feel like uncomfortable. It's dilating. This whole experience is dilating for you. Absolutely. Like it's intensifying. Um, Now, this is not going to when people are like, "Hey, it's life is so intense right now. Like, when is this going to like give me some relief?" It's not going to give you relief, but you are going to become more calibrated to it, and it's going to start to feel like more of like your normal process. It's just so new right now that it can almost feel like overwhelming. And you know why I kind of wanted to like really kind of get on today because this is again something that I've spoken about is not only is Mars entering Aries, which has like sped up the whole process, the sun sign, the sun, and I'm going to try to zoom in on this zodiac chart that I have up, which is just like the zodiac chart of where I am right now in Arizona. Um, this is what we're talking about with all of this Aries energy. This bottom planet right here, that's Neptune. We've got the planet Mars. We've got the planet Saturn. We've got the sun. And then we have an asteroid meteoroid combination, which is called Chiron. That's also playing a placement in what we're experiencing right now. This is a lot of energy. This is a lot of energy. And it's energy that's in a combination that is very new to us. And the most important one out of all of these is Neptune right here. This is your mystical antenna. It looks like an antenna because that's exactly what it is. Neptune rules the sign of Pisces. And that's always a good way to kind of like understand the energy of the planet, right? Like astrology, it gives you a lot of like, different terms and different roles that are getting played and different like actors that are playing in that grand drama, but they all like they rhyme together in certain kind of ways. Like Neptune rules Pisces, and Pisces built the 12th house. So when you think about Neptune, you can kind of think about the qualities of Pisces, and it will kind of help you understand more what Neptune is. Now, Neptune's going to have its own little identity, but the fundamental essence at its core is tied to Pisces. Same thing when you look at like the 12th house. If you're looking at your chart and you're like, what was the 12th house again? What's the 12th sign of the zodiac? Pisces? Okay, Pisces built that house. So it's going to have its own qualities, but at least you can know that essence that like formulated that, right? And so you could look at that kind of component and it can help you. Um, Correspondences like that is so important in the esoteric and the occult. It's not all different. Everything has connection points and everything, it's all growing from the same tree, and some of them share closer branches, right? And so when we're looking at this placement of the seventh house, this Neptune movement, and when Neptune moved in, it moved in with Saturn. This was a beginning of a completely new age for Aries. Aries is the ignition and start of life. Like Aries is that I am energy. Aries was like the moment that you took your first breath in this life, um, and it like went from the womb into the first, like your first breath. That moment you took your first breath, that is like Aries energy that activates you, and it's that active awareness. Aries is almost like the energy that you're not even aware of that's so active inside of you. Aries is like almost like the survival energy of like how you can't hold your breath and suffocate. There'll be something that like pushes your breath through at the last second. That's Aries. It's like the instinct of life. And so that instinct of life has just received the most mystical planet there is, which is Neptune, which is a spiritual antenna. It literally is the antenna that you have that's that allows for you to receive like frequencies from higher order, like higher levels of consciousness. um you truly are like a radio, um and you are receiving frequencies and receiving like channel from like consciousness. Your brain isn't where everything is stored. Your brain and like the gray matter in your brain is an electrical system that activates, and how correlated and how balanced your brain is activates that those two hemispheres to be able to tap into data that's above you, like which is in the astral realm. Like your memories and things like that, they're not just like in your brain, they're above you in like the astral substance. And that's where every event and everything you've ever experienced actually like forms into that. It actually like the event that you go through in every moment, so like just like you're listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth right now, that like it moves into it like foam. Like the event like pushes it and gives it a shape and an understanding, and it sets a record of every moment. Like your astral substance records everything that you've ever experienced. Now, do you generate enough like brain and like energy in the mind to be able to extract that file? Well, that's dependable. That depends on how much it kind of works through there, and how activated that is. And as you become more spiritual and as you create homeostasis between the left side of the consciousness and the right side of the consciousness, the deeper access you have to files. And this is why like you can smell something that you haven't smelled since your childhood, and then it like brings back a memory. It shoots that electrical current to that part of the brain, and it's able to extract that file. Um, Very much like a computer system, like was written in the chat. Like it's you know we're not made in the image of computers. Computers are made in the image of us. Like there's so much that you can learn by looking at computers to understand consciousness. And that's kind of what we're supposed to do in the age of Aquarius. Like every age has a different way that they relate to that universal life force and understand it. Prior to computers, like people understood the universe as like a grand clock and like a grandfather clock and like a machine. Well, that's what they were experiencing. Like in the ancient times, they experienced it as like a giant organism. Well, that's how they related to it. It's that relationship to consciousness is like kind of part of this evolution that we go through. And in the age of Aquarius, yeah, like understanding the technological correspondences is a way that we can like perceive this what we're experiencing here. So in like the Shakespearean times, it was all just a big play that we're observing. Well, now we call it a computer program, but it's no different. We're talking about the same thing. We're just using the relationship to what is like present in in like the current consciousness. Um, you know the shamans in the past didn't call it a computer program; they called it Maya. You know, um, the Gnostics didn't call it that. They called it they called it like the component of the demiurge. It's like what their relationship to life is how they relate to their understanding. Well, we live in this age of Aquarius that's very like technologically advanced, so we use technology as a reference point to understand reality. Um, and so this aspect of this antenna, well, this is the first time that antenna has been like personalized to you. Like you actually have control over the tuner of like what frequency and bandwidth you're bringing in. And so you're in a process right now of going from like, like a low AM bandwidth that's not very strong, and you're moving very fast from AM to FM, almost like satellite radio, like XM right now. You're you're bringing in more of a like a frequency um, receiving, and you're being able to actually take it in and understand it. Now, because it's in Aries and Mars is there, there's times that this like energy is coming in like too fast and it's almost overwhelming. Like the body hasn't caught up to the amount of energy that's being brought in. But again, it's just like a calibration thing. So just like trust the process of what's happening right now. And with everything, like this too shall pass. Like if you're like really overwhelmed by like just like the conscious experience right now, don't make the mistake of like defining it and identifying it of like this is how it's always been or this is how it's always will be, because it's not how it's always will be, it's being. We're always in a state of evolution, and we will become more like localized in being able to embody this energy in a more comfortable way. And this is exciting because this energy is is what you've been looking at and pursuing this entire spiritual process that you've unfolded. Um, this is it. Like it's coming in this kind of way, and the the ability to like touch in and like work with this component is like truly what it is. Like you really are like a receiver of universal life force energy, and it comes through you. Like when people like even talk about like, and all esoteric researchers will tell you this, like even like right now, it's not like I memorized what I'm talking about. It's no, it's just like a frequency that's kind of coming through, and that's what we're doing. And like with the studying of the esoteric and the occult, we're trying to like raise that frequency so we can tap in and not channel in a in a in like what you would call like a um passive way. That's different when I say channeling. Like channeling in a passive way is when somebody like turns themselves off completely and something comes in and takes over them and it like speaks through them. Channeling is more of like a psychic phenomenon, and like that kind of channeling, what you would call like negative channeling, it's not negative as bad, but it's like they completely turn themselves off to receive other energy. That's something completely different. And that's something you need so much training for. And it's something that like not everybody even has access to do. It's something that like either comes through time, through like life experiences, or it's actually like encoded in their chart that they can do that. And they have that capacity. And so that's like a different kind of channeling that I'm talking about. And there's amazing stuff that comes through channeling, but that's not what I'm speaking about when I'm saying channeling. Mine's more of an active component. It's like you have control and you're like just like taking in this information wave that's coming through. Well, that's no different than like what you're always doing. It just depends on like where you are on the scale of consciousness. Because if you're in a really low vibration and a really low frequency, the what you kind of feel is like your train of thoughts and what's coming through your consciousness is going to be a reflection of that. It's going to be lower thoughts and lower vibrations. Well, as you raise yourself up, the higher the thoughts, the higher the vibrations. It's really kind of the component of the scale of like angelic to like what you would call demonic. Um, the lower the vibration, the lower the frequency, the more the density, the more the like the solidification, the more the calcification. And that's like where like you don't tune into the higher like potential of what this antenna can drop in. you know that's why it's like, what that's why like your own independent path is so important. um you can't really like, even when it comes to like understanding other people, like if somebody like asks you to like explain your role with spirituality and they've initiated that, like absolutely, if somebody's like welcomed you to it. But this is why it's like not really worth your time, or it's not worth the other person's time for you to like try to like convince an atheist or somebody who's more materialistic when they're not ready, about the things that we're speaking about. Because like to them, they're using a broken radio that's like, and they're in the woods way far away. So like they're looking at their antenna and they're like, nothing's coming through here. I told you it's broken. Where you are using, you're like using a much different receiver that you connected to. So to them, it's like it's not even part of their reality. It's like it has to kind of start that process, and that's why it's like so difficult to convince people about what we're talking about here. And we really shouldn't. Like it's one of those things, like you experience it, and you that's like the best thing to kind of do. But it is very, very difficult to explain that to individuals because to them, like that radio is broken and it's always been broken. And that's why they can look at like alchemy and astrology as foolish. Well, they've calcified themselves from it. So, but when you calcify yourself from it, you you become more dense and you become more materialistic. So it doesn't have as much of an effect on you. Like kind of what we're talking about here today is like you start paying attention to numbers, numbers start paying attention to you. You start paying attention to astrology, astrology starts paying attention to you. You start looking at like and really understanding like fundamental esoteric principles. The principles are going to start paying attention to you, and it raises its intensity. Like we didn't go on the spiritual path to make our life easier, not at all. Like it comes with a lot of responsibility. It comes with a lot of, you know, um intensity. Like, you start working in this way, well, it starts working in the same way of like helping you to understand. But to be able to get you to remember what you truly are, which is so simple inside of you, like you are it experiencing it, right? Um, and you are already whole, but like you you can't truly understand that and know that without like releasing the things that have like convinced you of separation, and have like densified you and have taken you away from that complete knowing that's within your heart. Um, we all know what the end of this is. It's just remembering, but we have to go through a process, and we're here to go through that process. And we're also here at this time to go through this process to assist the collective in its process. Like, you know, the biggest thing that you are healing in your life is the thing that you asked to heal when you came here. Like you chose to where you're going to hit rock bottom in this life. You asked for it. You almost begged for it. Especially at where we find ourselves in time. We're at the end of a timeline. Um, and this is something that we can explore more and more, but this component of if you ever feel like you don't belong here or you feel alien to this reality, um, it's because you might not be from this timeline. You might not, you might be from a different time, and you might always come back at the end of the cycle to try to assist with us understanding like what the whole big riddle is of this conscious experience. There's a lot of souls that come back at the end, and they feel off, and there's the interesting things are struggling for them, where things some things that are so easy for others, which would be like maybe like financial security or like romantic relationships or maintaining a career. The material things could be very difficult, but the spiritual understanding is so familiar. um and you almost feel like homesick being here. It's 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 because like, yeah, you are. This isn't your home. It's none of our homes. Like we're just travelers through the valley of the shadow of death. But you came back to heal something because you knew that that was the thing that you felt that needed help for the collective to maintain like their ultimate healing. And so the thing that's your biggest challenge in life, the thing that could be your fear, the thing that whatever it is, and we all have our own personal journeys, right? Like that's what I love about the concept of I and I in Rastafarianism. like it identifies the original, the same source in you that is in within me, but it also knows that we all have our own original like individual paths, and we all have our own individual healing that we have to do. Well, the thing that you chose, that's your biggest challenge in life, you chose that. You chose to hit the ground and hit the rock bottom on that. And it wasn't just because you, when you hit rock bottom, you were going to like use the rock bottom to jump up higher than you've ever been before. It's because when you hit rock bottom, you grabbed all of the collective trauma that was the dross that was left over, that's been unincorporated, and the trauma of this whole collective timeline, and you grab as much as you can and you jump up with it, so you can help lift the density that everybody is stuck in right now. You didn't hit rock bottom just so you could jump higher. You knew that this is where there was alchemical dross. And when you jump up so high that you immediately take that dross and you turn it into alchemical gold. You're all doing this. Like, this is what the 144,000 people in the Bible is representing. It's not that there's just 144,000 people that get saved at the end of time. No, it's 144,000 teachers who come and help guide and instruct and bear witness to who the true universal life force is, and help open the gates so more consciousness can make its way through. So, consciousness, at any moment within the timeline, you can reach nirvana and you can ascend above this realm. And that's like what your prophets are, and they teach you, and that's what these master teachers are that we all know of, right? But it's it's like towards the end of the cycle that it happens in like larger waves, where it's like group almost exodus consciousness that can leave this reality. um and what happens there is, as the world gets more materialistic, and as the world almost like turns into this like obvious like construct matrix of hell, it and like it builds its like physical barriers on people. The barrier of like transcending from this realm gets weaker. So the aspect to escape is higher. That's why you're going through so much intensification. That's why they're making so much drama on the television. It's it's because like this is it. This is the time. Like, you chose to be here in this time period. And there's nothing to fear. There's absolutely nothing to fear. Um, the only thing that like, it's about that aspect of like, you know, how do I serve that universal life force, and help everybody remember that it's just love. Well, those roles are turning on for you guys now. Like, that's what this whole thing is it's turning on for you. And this energy that you're feeling right now is going to localize and help you understand like what your individual like direction in labor here is. Not your career, which is like your food, water, and shelter, but your labor. That's why there's 144,000 stones in the pyramid. It's for the 144,000 that like choose to take on this role. And there's all these stones, and it's not guaranteed who is going to like fit that position, because you could be like working to fit one position of those stones as one of those teachers, and then you can have like a shift and you actually like fit into a different one, or you could fall off. um, what it's trying to do is it's trying to shake everybody off right now. It's trying to shake them off with fear. It's trying to do it in so many different ways. um, and so this is like very much what we're experiencing right now. um, and why I'm like bringing all this up is because like right now the sun is near Chiron, and it might feel very intense, and just know that like right now you could be like really really challenged with something that you've been trying to like release from your life, and almost get this feeling that, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get away from this. Like, this is always is how it's going to be. No, like, the lower ego, which is the extension of like the demiurge and the tree of death, this is its death rattle. It's terrified because it knows you're at the point of releasing this fully. Like, whatever that is, whatever the thing is that you're just like, am I ever going to get away from it? it is like super intense in front of you right now, it's its death rattle. Like it's always darkest before the dawn. And I think that's something like that's the big reminder here today is like don't think of like the spiritual development always in this linear way of like, oh, I gained more control and of that aspect, and I gained more control and more control, and then it was like completely embodied in a new like transmutation of utilizing that energy. No, you'll take like steps, you'll have confidence, it will always come at like a last bit effort to try to get you to to distrust yourself and try to get you to like give up, um and not trust that like the universal life force has your back. More of like, oh no, you're always going to be a prison to this. No, no, like not at all. Like I am, period. And that right there is like what we have the ability of to say in Aries now, that we've talked about it before, and it felt really nice to say, but like that's like activated now. Like I am, period. Like, you have a personal relationship to that universal life force, and it loves you unconditionally. Like that father energy loves you unconditionally. And this aspects of like guilt, judgment, if that universal life force doesn't judge you, we don't have to judge. And again, it's like we don't judge anybody else on this path. Like you just do you, and the people that you're supposed to get attracted to and to assist are going to be doing the same. You know, um, it's so true. And again, I'm seeing so many like amazing things in the comment, um, and yeah, absolutely. Like even that component about like, I see like the idea of like the devil. It's it is that kind of way. And it's so interesting too, because like the devil and the God that was presented to us are play like good cop and bad cop here. And that's what like most religions like set up and establish. They run to one to protect them from the other, but they're really just playing good cop, bad cop. Like it's not really even that game. Um, it's it's above that. It's like your true like father and mother energy. And we're going to speak more about that. There's a reason why Jesus in the New Testament doesn't use the word like God as much as the Old Testament. He uses the word father. Um, and what he describes as father is much different than what we see as like the record and the established record of many of the representations of like what this God was in the Old Testament. Um, and so and so and I'm just kind of looking to of course, Mother Nature is a great messenger to connect to, is a great teacher. Trees are a great teacher to guide you through this experience. Birds, of course, birds. And like one of the videos we're going to do very soon is called On the Language of the Birds, which is like an ancient pre-language that's really, really magical, and that's waking up inside of us. Um, and to answer the question of like, is there an indicator of like 144? Um, yeah, it's it's if you ask that question, it's you. It's like it's not something that is like set and established of like this is it. Um, if you ask the question and like you ponder on it, it's you. If like what I spoke about is like feels more of like something you almost forgot and you're like re-remembering, it's you. And even if this is like new to you, it could be you. Um, no, it's a free will decision. Like that's where free will comes in. Free will comes into like how much we're going to let that universal life force learn itself inside of us, and how much are we going to spread love through this world. Um, so there's no like specific qualifications of the 144. It's going to come from all different variety of people, but the main thing is they 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 know that like what they who they serve, um and they don't bend their knee to anything but the universal life force, and that universal life source would never ask you to bend its knee to it. um they bear witness of like what the truth is. um it's it's all so simple. And if it's not, then we don't completely understand it, and we need to keep going through with it. But the 144 is is all of us. Um, and again, it's not just 144,000 people that are saved. It's just 144,000 that take on that energy to bear witness of like what true this truly is, and like what true love is. Um, and you know, as we go through this process too, the the security in this reality in the external is diminishing. It's falling away. We're seeing that with like the capacity of like religion, anybody's like security in and anybody's like security in like even like the the Hollywood like kings and queens that everybody used to worship. Like they're all falling from grace. We're all kind of like seeing through that lens. And even like, people aren't even finding security in like professional sports as much anymore. All of those security blankets and like security wraps are going to be taken away. Um, because it can only be found within you. Because like even when you think about it, if somebody ever sells you security in this reality, whether it's like security of your finances, security of your body, I mean, it kind of all is bullshit because like everything in this reality turns to dust. Like everything in this process of this physical reality goes from, has a process of decay. It's got a law of thermodynamics. The only thing you can get security is in the eternal. And Elaine puts it right perfectly right there. It's it's the Father's kingdom, which is within you. It's within you. Um, you know, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And that's where the security is. That's where the knowledge is. And that's where the guidance is. Um, you know, that's 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 truly what we're working with. And that's what we're trying to understand that. And even like the number breakdown, that's beautiful. 144 breaks down to nine. Nine is the number of mastery. Um, it is working its way of like completion and mastery in the unique way that you're supposed to find mastery. We're not all supposed to do the same thing. We're not all supposed to be on the same path. Just trust what bears you fruit. What connects you to feeling more connected to the universe? What connects you to like the love inside of yourself? And what gives you energy? Like that's a big one. We're talking about that eternal energy when it's like, what should I do? What gives you energy? Like, what would you have energy to do if you had a choice? That's that's your purpose. It's so simple. What would you want to do and what would you be excited about doing? Like it's that universal life force doesn't complicate things like the demiurge and the matrix do. It's so simple. You know, you can like see a gematria breakdown of a public event and you can see all the actors and all the crazy calculations and how this rap album 10 years ago said one thing that had to like show up in this thing, then it showed up in a Simpsons episode, and then it showed up to collapse this event. Yeah, because that's a synthetic code. It's very complicated because it was made in the synthetic system of the matrix to try to create and like create an outcome that was not natural. Where the universal life force's outcome is simple. It's like a flower blossoming. Um, it's like when numbers come to you and speak to you in like a very divine way, just like it did with that nine. Um, so, you know, that's kind of what we're like looking at. But the big thing of this like theme of this conversation today was just just trust the process. Don't don't identify anything right now if it gets dense and if it gets heavy, and don't identify it as being absolute. Absolute. Just observe it. Observe it in its process, and you know, give it love because it's going beyond you and it's passing you by actually, and just love it because that's energy is going to return to you as something that you can utilize. Because this Chiron, which is a key, is either the key that locks doors for you and locks closets, or it's the key that can unlock any door for you. And it can the key that can unlock everybody else's door. You become the key master. So we're in a very important time of like that kind of understanding. And that's again why we're going to be connecting in this kind of space more and more often. And always always open to like any kind of questions that kind of come up. Um, but yeah, just you know, you are all it. Like you are all so special, and you all have such an important role to play. Um, and this is this is what we've been waiting for. Like this is we chose to be here at this time period. Um, and it's like the greatest honor because it's showing that like how much of a dedication it is to like help with this component of like the expansion of love. And we'll talk more about like what's happening in this time. We'll talk more about like even like why the seals get broken and why is there even like energy that works against us? Because even that is a story that needs to be understood. It's not like it's a simple story, but like understanding the whole thing will make everything make more sense. Um, because we we are really the ones that um can make these like most beautiful changes. And so you know, this is okay, yeah. How do we? That was a great question because I'm just going to open up the floor to some questions right now. How do you maintain being grounded through this work? You know, to stay grounded at this time is obviously like your old practices of like grounding into nature, breathing exercises like the box breathing can help with it in that kind of way. Um, but also you're more energetically sensitive now to like the news in the world. And I'm not saying to send a blind eye to it, but that component of like what frequency is getting fed into you has a lot to do with like anxiousness that you're not aware of. You're more sensitive to um all of these things right now. And that's why they're showing us all of these things right now because they know your sensitivity is more susceptible, right? So like, and this is why a lot of us had to go through a process of learning about things years ago that are coming out to the surface now. And you might have always been like, hey, well, I asked that question. Like, why do I have to learn about these components of like, you know, um, what's happening really in Hollywood or like what's happening to like, the children and things like this. It was because like when this moment came, we wouldn't be like deer in the headlights and like we would be prepared for it and not get sucked down into the news cycle because there's a reason why they're exposing everything right now. It's because it's like it's getting everybody into like a daze and getting them into a funk, and it's like all they kind of think about. um and and so it's like affecting this aspect because it's like you're more susceptible to those things now. You have to do like more of an awareness of like, hey, what is what am I letting like be the input into my system? um and like it doesn't mean you have to ignore what's happening in the world. You can still send love to the places that need love in this world. um but this like bombardment of that 24/7 news clicker, um it's affecting your frequency more because you're more sensitively in tuned. So it's like you're either controlling your energy or it's going to be like taken from you. um so you know this component of like just understanding it, but don't get caught up in the circus. Don't get caught up in like, oh, what they've released this week, or who's on this list, or like, oh, this person's. It's like, don't don't get caught up in it. They're everybody that they're going to expose on it is the scapegoat. There's going to be so many names that they don't, and it's just a game for them in that kind of way. You know, try not to get caught up in the carnival. Like almost like not my circus, not my monkeys. Like this is the reality of like what I'm trying to spend time on. And again, nature, positive thinking, getting connected to community, and like sending love to these areas in life. Prayer, like speaking to that universal life force. It's not that far away. It's not far away from you. It's close. Like when somebody's doing healing with their hands, that healing isn't coming from the astral realm. It's coming from them because it's all like within. So utilize this time because like why they're making so much noise is because like your inner self is calling you and they're trying to like drown out what it's saying. Um, just go within. It's that's where the security is. That's where the grounding is. Um, and just like understand like the process. And I'll do a better job of establishing astrological transits and things like this because like understanding the numbers and the transits will definitely help because like it's knowing where you are in time will help like give you some like relevance and like understanding of why you're feeling that in that moment. And it gives it a little bit, you're just a little bit more at peace with it if you're like, okay, this is like I'm in a heavy pressurized day and stuff is popping off because it's a prime number. That would make sense why I'm kind of feeling that like anxious energy today. So getting a understanding of like where you are in time. um, and then like I said, I am going to do a better job of getting updates. And really, there's like a project that I'm trying to get started, and I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. But actually, do like a morning broadcast, so we could have the astrological weather for the day and the gematria weather for the day. Um, and it'll be almost like a morning show. And I haven't announced this yet. I'm only announcing it to you guys. And I'm actually going to like edit this out of the video that it gets posted. Because when it's not the like you only want to share things of your aspirations um with a few. Um because it's like you want to share it with like the people that are going to empower it. That's like a really good like aspect of like understanding those things. That was like something we made a lot of mistakes in the podcast of like making announcements about things, and it's not the smartest thing to do. But we've got 12 people in the chat. That's a powerful number, and I know everybody in this energy is going to send it like powerful things to make that morning show happen. And the morning show is going to be like also fun. like like I have another program coming out called Gnosis, which will be a very serious podcast, which has like no Daniel personality to it. It's just going to be all esoteric density. And then the Know They Self podcast, which has like Daniel has like whispers himself out of that one. The morning show is going to be like all Daniel. It's going to be fun. We're going to have guests on it. Um, like it's going to be the weather, the astrological weather, but it's also going to have like just like fun shenanigans, but also like some density to it too. So it will be really, really cool when we kind of make that process. But this was so easy. Like live streaming is rad. This was kind of like when we even started, like when Eduardo first asked me, he's like, hey, like, we got nothing going on right now. Do you want to start a podcast? And I was like, yeah, sure. But like, what's a podcast? Like, I didn't even know. Um, this is so cool. This live streaming, like, we just get to hang out and chat. Yeah, we'll make this happen mucho more. But truly, it's such an honor to be with each and every one of you. And it's just so great. And we'll all be crossing paths again very very soon. And we'll be yeah, we'll be like looking forward to it. And so yeah, I guess until next time.